Hi, I've really enjoyed flipping classes whenever possible. This video talks about a flipped classroom activity for teaching academic interviews. The challenge with a flipped classroom design with academic interviews is that the probably the most obvious way to do that is to bring in a group of people and have students interview them. That can create a host of difficulties. So this is an alternative to that. It's called the interview game or the extreme interview game. And this is a fun way to gamify interviews and help students build on the ground interviewing skills at the same time. The main idea is that this is sort of a gamified role play that pits practicing interviewers against challenging interviewees. So the one person is assigned to be the interviewer, one person is assigned to be the interviewee. The interviewee draws one of these cards. Maybe they'll get the down to business interviewee. And basically all of these interviewee roles are challenging in some way. So here's the grumpy interviewee. And basically this is a way to have people learning how to interview, test their skills against someone in sort of a more challenging situation. There's a link to this interview game if you want to try it out. I'll put the link in the description as well. But this is on my academic blog. Here you can download the interview game. What you get with that is a scorecard, a set of instructions, and also the printable cards. So you can print these out on cardstock, you can print them in color, you can laminate them. There's a lot of flexibility here. All these resources are able to be edited once you download them. So if you want to tweak things, adjust things, change them, these are fair use. So anybody that wants to use these can use these, adapt them, change them up in a way that works for you. Some of my best practices in doing this, of course, here are the instructions I typically use. The short version of this is that you divide your whole class up into groups of 4, and then you split each group of 4 into pairs. So you have these dyads, and one dyad will start off, and one will be the interviewer, one will be the interviewee. The interviewee draws a card from the stack. They play the role here. So like here's the robot interviewee. They're supposed to be almost not human, have no tone or emotion in their voice. And the interviewers, their job is to try and use best practices of interviewing to get rich information out of a challenging interviewee. So maybe the interviewee is assigned to be closed off. That pushes the interviewer come up with creative ways to encourage the interviewee to talk. At the same time, they're looking to use the best practices of interviewing. Help that person feel like the expert, reassure them that you want to know their story and that you consider them an expert on their experiences. Don't introduce bias in the follow-ups. For example, if the interviewee says something and the interviewer wants to know more about it, they're encouraged to say, "How interesting, go on, please tell me more. You mentioned this, could you tell me a little bit more about that?" Versus, "Oh yeah, that's right, that happened to me too," which phrases can introduce bias because it suggests that those were the right answers. Those are the things the interviewer wants to hear. So they're testing these interview skills out. They're doing it in a fun way. Some of the best practices for this, and here are the detailed rules. I won't go through all of them, but essentially they take turns in the dyads within each group, and each turn is a round. So the first team gets a shot. The interviewer designs actual questions that they want to use in an interview project that we do in the class. So they all end up actually interviewing a real person and transcribing the interview. And there they're evaluated on their ability to break the ice, encourage the interviewee in a way that doesn't introduce bias, help the interviewee feel like the expert and feel comfortable, and to get rich information. So they design their actual interview questions they want to use. Within the dyads, so there are these 2 dyads within the group of 4. Within the dyads are partners. One is the interviewer, one is the interviewee. The goal is for the interviewer to ask 3 follow-up questions. That's when the round ends. So they ask 3 follow-up questions, and sometimes that can be pretty tough depending on what role the interviewee draws. The interviewer tries to guess what role the interviewee was playing. If they guess correctly, they get a point for team 1. If not, team 2 gets a chance to steal that point by correctly guessing what role the interviewee was playing. Then team 2 gets a chance to earn another point by then being the interviewer and interviewee. So it's a really fun game. Again, the detailed rules are here. Some best practices, ways to make this really academically rigorous. I really suggest using these discussion questions after the game. So have them pull the card out that they think is the type of person they're most likely to encounter while doing the interview. Have them pull the card out that they think would be the toughest, and have them ask what things they could do to get better information if they run up against these challenges. And perhaps, this last question may be most beneficial of all. What's the most important thing you've learned from this game? What skill do you think would best help you actually doing the interview? And I'm very interested in bringing in these games and doing these kinds of flipped activities that are fun and engaging for the student, but only really if there's also something very academically beneficial there. Since I've started doing this interview game, the actual interview projects where they go do a real interview and transcribe it and turn it in, those have improved in quality since doing this. Some of the feedback from the students, they say they really enjoy this. Several students tell me this is their favorite thing we do in the research methods class all semester. They also say that they learned a lot, that it really challenged them to think of new and creative ways to encourage follow-up without bias, to break the ice at the beginning of the interview, to help the interviewee feel like an expert. So all around the board, as far as I can tell, this is a beneficial activity. It's engaging, it's fun, the students love it. My own kids play this at home for their entertainment, so I guess it's that fun. Students that enjoy acting or histrionics really get into it, but all students seem to love it. So this is an option for anyone looking to bring in some interviewing skills in a flipped classroom. The website's here. I'll put the link in the description. Check it out. Print out the materials. You can edit any of the materials, change them, make them your own, and it may be something worthwhile. Thanks.